Ryan, a couple of new things to watch, either currently or about to be in theaters. One is streaming on Disney Plus. They've given us yet another series of animated shorts,
Hmm.
Tales of the Underworld, 6
Yes.
episodes.
Yeah.
6 episodes, 2 stories. Now, the Underworld would make you think that this is the either death or criminal. Turns out the first episode's both. The first three episode arc is about Asajj Ventress,
Yes.
who has been killed in the past and then apparently come back and never explained why or how. Now we have 3 episodes that explain how and what she does. She's an interesting character,
Sure.
not a Sith per se, not a Jedi, definitely not. Definitely a terribly adept Force user.
Yes.
Boy, she's got more sides to her than a dodecahedron. She's been good, bad, indifferent,
Sure.
bad, good. And then the second 3 are about everyone's favorite bounty hunter, Cad Bane, who has actually reached the end of his story in The Mandalorian. But this is the beginning of his story. Now, how do you feel about these 2 characters? Do you like one more than the other? And then we'll talk about how we feel about these 3 episode arcs.
Well, I prefer the Asajj Ventress, probably more so. Although
Cad Bane? But everyone
that?
loves Cad Bane.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. I mean, the childhood of Cad Bane. No, I mean, I guess they're both somewhat interesting, but I don't think that the Cad Bane story is nearly as revealing character wise as I don't, and I'll be honest, I don't know why they don't just release these as 2 episodes. I don't know why they feel the need to separate them into 3 15-minute shorts.
Yeah, I know, because what we had was it the werewolf
Yes.
special, the one-off, which was about 45, 50 minutes.
Correct.
So why couldn't we do one
Yeah,
off
I don't
event Star Wars animated?
Exactly. I don't
That's a
know.
really good point. I wish they would do that. But instead they dump them but they dump them all at once.
Yeah, so that's what I mean, I guess if you were going to release them separately, weekly, that might be one thing, although I don't know how if there's enough here that you could do if you can't watch them all at once.
Right.
I don't know that there's enough here that would demand the attention of many people.
No, that's true. They would either have to make the episodes longer to warrant a weekly release.
Something, yeah. But
yeah, right. I think they could do 2 one-offs, 2 special events.
And why not?
And make them special events.
Yeah. So that's.
And they were released released on May the 4th.
Yes,
so why not do special events on May the 4th?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like someone overthought there. Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But I think you're right on content of these 2 in that Cad Bane's isn't. You're right. It isn't as revealing. I mean, we see him as a child.
Yeah.
But then we immediately see him as an adult.
Yeah, it's yes.
So there isn't a lot of transition between, pre-Cad Bane, whose name isn't even Cad Bane.
No.
To I have grown up in a world and now my name is Cad Bane. He's just not, he doesn't have the breathing vents in his face yet.
Yes.
So it's like, you're right. There's a big gap. So what is the point except to tell this almost pointless story?
Yeah, I don't know. It's completely pointless. I just think it's filler. And I think that's kind of what, I guess they wanted to tell the story. It's just kind of strange how they do it because, you think timeline, and the timeline is confusing enough as it is.
Yeah, sure.
And then you start working in these other side stories I don't know. I think they're. I don't know. I don't have any problem with them doing these, um, but I don't know, again, why split them into three parts? Why release these two at the same time when they're not that related?
Yeah.
I guess thematically, Underworld, yes, I can see where that's coming from, but I don't know. And that said, I enjoyed them just fine.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the Asajj Ventress arc is narratively better, but it's actually incomplete.
yeah, well, both really feel incomplete.
But Asajj Ventress, you get these three, and once you watch them, you'll understand out there.
Yeah.
But you get to the third one, it's like it's like we're not rolling into a fourth episode of this thing.
And I would have been happily, I would have loved to watch the fourth episode.
So yeah, it's weird. It's Filoni likes to go back and just do little snippets of his favorite characters, and both of these are his. They are both his characters. So
Yeah,
in that way, he's kind of like James Gunn is with his superheroes. He likes to play in his sandbox. But yeah, I think they're both interesting. They both look great. All of these always look great, which is nice. That
yeah,
they're not choppy. They're not ugly. They're not they're well put together and they're well presented. It's just in this one, it's like okay, that was fine. But I like Asajj Ventress as a character. I think more than
yeah.
Cad Bane.
Well, yeah, and she's always been. I mean, obviously, she's a bad person, and she's been shrouded
Right.
in sort of. You don't really know much about her other than that she's badass. I guess really up to
Yeah.
this point.
Until you
Uh,
get through Clone Wars and
yeah,
Rebels.
yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, but no, they're not bad. But I think they again hers feels more incomplete than his does because his has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and hers feels like it has a beginning and a middle.
Yeah,
And then it's like, well, where's my end? It would have been an end had it not ended the way it did. But the fact that they ended it the way they did, it's like, well, no, there's more. Why are we not there? So it's interesting. But yeah, so the Star Wars Tales of the Underworld is currently streaming on Disney Plus. Now it's 6 episodes. It'll take you an hour to watch them all.
yeah,
You
and,
get a
and
little more.
and I wish I could say they're must watch, but they're kind of for the fans,
Yeah,
for
they're
the
just they're just
hardcore.
neat for in that respect. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. In theaters this weekend, I believe, is a horror movie that by its title I was not going to watch.
Hmm.
But I started seeing headlines that didn't give anything away, but they seemed positive. And that title is Clown in a Cornfield. Now, if you're going to watch a horror movie and there's a cornfield involved, you automatically know bad things are going to happen. If you watch a
Sure.
horror movie and there's a clown involved, you know bad things are going to happen. So now we get both. Little fish out of water tale. Girl and her father relocate to town in the middle of nowhere. That's slowly dying. He can become he becomes the town doctor. But within 3 days, all of this happens,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Welcome to the city, folks.
Yep. Welcome to the podunk. There's a legend of there's a mascot of the factory that used to be there, and it's Friendo the clown, but the factory burned down, and the town is dying. And this group of high schoolers makes YouTube videos in which they take the mascot of Friendo the clown and they turn him into a serial killer. And they get all the
Although
YouTube hits.
it does start in the 90s.
It
It
does
has a
start
scene
in the
before it
90s.
does kind of come to more contemporary, where there is, in fact, a clown in the cornfield that kills somebody.
Yep.
So there, But ironically, that's not really brought up,
Nope. Not
which
it's touched on later.
sort of.
Barely.
Yeah.
Yeah. When they find some stuff. So, but then it jumps to now. To current day. And she falls in with this crowd of obnoxious high schoolers.
Who are kind of they're labeled the troublemakers, but to me they feel like typical high school
The popular
students.
kids.
Yeah. They just
Which-
feel like so
They were at the factory when it caught fire. But they did not start the fire. The official cause was an electrical problem.
correct. Yes.
But everyone lost their jobs. And a lot of people still believe they started the fire, but yet they are still popular. I don't understand how that works.
Don't worry. It's just it's a little convoluted, but that's okay.
It is a little convoluted. That said, with this setup, this movie should be terrible.
Okay.
It should be terrible.
Yeah.
I don't think it's terrible.
No.
No,
but yeah.
It's not Sinners.
Oh, heavens no.
It is not that good. But I actually kind of found it surprisingly entertaining. In that I love the fact that you kind of believe the whole time that none of these kids are involved in any of this. And then you find out that they are in fact not involved. No, but it's weird because it does it makes fun of the Gen Alpha tropes of, what is a rotary phone?
Yes.
What music do you listen to, Dad, while you're driving across country?
And my hope is that yes, they are in fact making fun.
Well, I think they are, because then there's the whole manual transmission gag.
Yes, there's a few times.
No, because it's actually the same gag, and it's the reverse, and it's the reverse of the kids don't know what a rotary phone is. In when she gets to that point, she's trying to get away because the clown is coming. She jumps in a car, and it's a stick shift. And she yells at herself, when your father offers to teach you stick, say yes. So I just thought that was a great acknowledgement that the us old fogies are not always wrong. And it's made by one of the surly teenagers. I just thought that was wonderful. And then at the end, you get an actual manual transmission lesson.
Yes.
So I thought that was a great gag. So I thought it wasn't necessarily, it took, if there was an opportunity to make fun of something, it did in fact take it, which I thought was nice. The way it played out, and I don't want to ruin it, because I think it's worth watching for a couple of reasons. But one of them is that the actual mythology of Frendo the Clown is very badly explained. There are tinges of, how can I do this without spoiling it? The Village. But overall, like I said, I think it's an interesting application of this kind of clown and cornfield horror trope in terms of some sort of real life application. Again, but they explain it to us again, and it's just like it's that I didn't care for, even though it is explained to us by Kevin Durand, who plays the grandson of the founder of the town. So he's kind of like the unofficial everything. He's the stereotypical rich guy that runs the little town, and he explains it to us. But I feel like there's actually room to grow in this movie, and it's because the movie's only 96 minutes long. They could have cut some stuff and added a couple things, and I think the film's much more rounded. But again, I was surprised at how entertaining it was. Just from once the clown steps out of the cornfield and then we're all in and he survived the clown. I think that's a really good point. I think up till then it's actually it's too slow, and I think they needed to pick that up. There needed to be more exposition shown.
Sure.
But like I said, once the blood really starts going, I thought that was when it really got entertaining.
Yeah. Well, and it what? It really goes with what it's going for,
Yeah, it
for better or
embraces
for worse.
it embraces it and doesn't shy away from the silliness of clown in a cornfield.
No, no, and it's yes, yeah, the hope is, um, well, and they either did know they were having fun or they were just incompetent enough to make it fun. Um,
Yeah.
I preferred to think, yeah, as you do, that this was meant to be tongue in cheek. I do think it goes a bit too far towards the end, um, where it's always threatening to go off the rails, and there's at least a little bit towards the end where it absolutely goes off the rails.
Mm.
But yeah, they do play against tropes as well as give in to tropes and whatnot. It's an amusing film. I think it's more for horror curious than it is for, well, although I think there is probably some appeal to people who don't typically like horror as well, because it is so um silly.
Yeah.
I
Well, I
wouldn't
get it.
say, I guess it's one of those things. It's not really a scary movie at all.
No. This isn't
So
this isn't like Terrifier.
no, there's no real scary in it. Um,
I mean, it's almost, and it's not even in the same class, but it's almost Tucker and Dale-esque.
yeah, only not quite as sharp.
Right.
I mean, Tucker and Dale. If you haven't seen Tucker and Dale, you need to see it because it's one of the cornerstones of horror comedy. It's up there with Shaun of the Dead and whatnot. Um, and it does use a lot of tropes and whatnot. But I think that one works quite a bit better. But it's fine. I mean, it is. I wouldn't say completely forgettable, but there's a lot that doesn't necessarily make sense.
Well, yeah,
Um,
but in
and
horror movies, very little does.
and there's a lot of stuff I think that they could have. Um, I think they could have expanded on a lot of things. I think the world building could have been a little better.
Yeah,
Um,
because let's be clear, the Friendo the clown as a murderous clown only exists in these kids' YouTube videos, as far as the town care. Most of the town people care.
yes.
So the fact that Friendo is used, or Friendo does the things that he does, it feels a little cheap. They just do it because it's clown in a cornfield.
Yeah,
But
and I
there's an opportunity there. You're right. There is an opportunity to build this world in a slightly more balanced way, to let everything else stand up on top of it as well.
yeah.
So it's like I said, but it's not bad. I was surprised. It got funner the longer I watched it, which was nice. That was a pleasant change of pace considering some of the stuff that we get to watch. So, but that is in theaters, I believe this Friday.
Yeah.
So check it out if you lighthearted comedic romp. There is blood.
Yeah, there's a bit of
It,
gore.
as every horror comedy does, it believes in blood. And I love the fact that the factory made corn syrup.
Yeah, well, that too.
That chef's kiss. That's just
Yeah.
beautiful. You got chef's kiss on my new sweater, or chef's. You got corn syrup on my new sweater. It's like, did she?
You might want to check that.
You might want to check that. So I just thought that That
Yeah,
was a
I mean,
great.
and that's I think there are moments that are really quite good, and I think that if they had been able to make everything
Right.
that good,
Yeah.
it would be on a next level. But it's fine. It's
Yeah.
entertaining.
It's entertaining. The last thing that's coming that we're going to talk about, I want to see when the first episode. It's a streaming. Okay, let's talk about our favorite streaming service again. That is not a sponsor, but I think we would desperately love it to be.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, you know what? We actually can't talk about it because the
Oh,
embargo doesn't lift for another 9 days.
okay, well then we'll wait.
But you know what? I'm going to mention the show is coming on Apple screener or on Apple TV Plus.
There you go.
That is our favorite streaming service, just generally speaking. And we'll
Just
talk in another week and a half.
there you go. Yeah,
So,
and I'll watch more than I have at that point.
yes, I have watched it all. Well, that is all we will say. So we'll talk about that. That is it for now. Next week, we are going to get to screen Mission Impossible.
Yay.
I hope yay. Yay would be good. I need to, do I own the last one so I can rewatch it? Oh, I'm gonna have to check. I don't think I do. I'm out of town this weekend. And then Monday, we come back Sunday. Monday, we have Mission Impossible. Tuesday, I have to see if I have to RSVP for that. Friendship, which A24? I think it is. I think that's an A24. Paul Rudd is in that one. We got that one. And then the week after that, I'll be out of town for a while, but maybe we can do something. Who knows? And then, hey, the weekend of the 23rd, 4th, and 5th, I will, on my way home from a work trip out of state, I will be detouring because they let me to Dallas to attend the Texas Frightmare Weekend horror event. Because the guest list on that event is nutso. And I'm like, oh, I would like to get this signed, and I can get it signed by 4 people. And I would like, oh, I could get these signed and complete that hole in my collection. Great looking event. I'm sure I'll post some photos and some videos on X and Facebook and all that stuff, and Instagram as well. But I'm hoping to have a good time down there. And that's the Memorial Day weekend. And then my long, dark slog begins. But hopefully I'll have stuff to stream during that after those next couple weeks. So, but yeah, so we talked about Clown in a Cornfield. And we talked about Star Wars, Tales of the Underworld. Both worth checking out. Both could be better, but both are still worth seeing. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, both are worth checking out.
So yes, both are worth checking out. And that's good. Anything else you want to add about either of these two?
No, I mean I do wish that that we got more finished stories or bigger stories in these tales of the
Yeah.
series that they've been doing. Or I guess at some point on Disney Plus or something they'll put together how the whole thing will play out. But anyway, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, now Filoni's working toward Mandalorian and Grogu the movie, so we'll see. Because he says it's going to tie up everything. But even though Cad Bane is dead, I don't think he needs to tie him up anymore. But we'll see what happens with the rest of it, the rest of his little project. So that's it. We've got those movies coming up next week, and then we'll get to some more after that because I'm sure they're coming. And in about a month from now, I think we'll start thinking about Fantastic Four.
Yep, sounds good.
So there you go. Don't forget to like us, follow us on social media. Go to the website, vsmoviepodcast.com. That will have links to all of our stuff. Until we talk to you again, be good, stay safe, see a good movie in theaters. I am Mark. That is Ryan. Bye, Ryan.
See you guys.
We'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.